Hello everyone, and welcome to my NEET channel. Today I'm going to be talking about mental illness, and specifically the various mental illnesses that I currently suffer from. And I'm going to be rating them on a scale of 1 to 10 in terms of their severity, talking about how they affect me and how they contribute to me becoming NEET or staying NEET. Let me sit up first. So the first of these mental illnesses, which I'm going to talk about, is social anxiety. On a scale of 1 to 10, I'd say I probably suffer from it the most, and I'd give it a score of 7.5 or possibly an 8. Social anxiety affects me because it makes it really hard for me to talk to people and do things like hold conversations and make myself appear much more likable to people. And it essentially makes me act in a way that's really off-putting to others. And by that, I mean, it makes it seem as if I hate the other person, I'm not interested, or I don't know, I'm not interested, or I have something to hide, like I'm a suspicious person, even though that is definitely not the case, because I'm definitely not suspicious at all. Just kidding. Well, I mean, I know I'm not, but forget it. Anyways, yeah, how that causes me to be NEET is that it makes it hard to do things like make friends and or do well in job interviews and essentially function normally in the everyday workplace. And because of that, I'm essentially forced to just stay at home all day, because if I try and interact with people, people don't like me back. And this is mostly due to my anxiety and how it affects my body and my mind and my thoughts. And it also just makes me really afraid to talk to people because well, excuse me. It makes it very hard. It makes it very hard to socialize or go out and socialize when every time you do so, your social anxiety just locks you up. It imprisons your mind and your behaviors, and it makes you act in a way that's not likable. And because of that, people act in a negative way towards me, and that causes me to become even more afraid of socializing, because these negative responses to my socially anxious behaviors make me feel really bad about myself and ruin my self-esteem. And yeah, it's just this negative cycle of social anxiety reinforcing itself. The second mental illness, which I'm going to talk about, is Asperger's. So I guess in this regards, I'm lucky because I'd rate it maybe a 4 out of 10, or maybe even a 3.5 out of 10. And when I use this rating system, I'm really talking more about the autism spectrum than specifically Asperger's, because I'd say a 10 out of 10 rating would probably be fully autistic, and a 1 out of 10 would just be mildly inconvenienced. And I'd say I have it at around a 4 or a 3.5. And how it affects me is that it essentially makes it hard for me to communicate with people, but not in the same way as social anxiety, because although they can sound very different, they can sound very similar, I mean, they actually affect me in very different ways. And Asperger's makes it hard to talk to people because it's basically, in a nutshell, a lack of social skills and interpersonal skills that most people, normal people, develop over time, and that that most people develop over time, and that come intuitively to most I guess, neurotypical people, which means people who don't have autism or Asperger's. And well, basically, for example, I have a really hard time picking up on social cues, using the right body language, making eye contact. And when I say body language and facial expressions, I mean, for example, if I want to show interest in someone, I know I'm supposed to smile and, lean in or whatever and talk to them. But these are things that I've had to learn through the internet and YouTube and like social skills guides and whatever, when in reality, these things I feel come pretty normal to most people. And it also affects me in the sense that it makes it really hard for me to learn social skills as well. I'm pretty sure I have an impairment when it comes to learning social skills. And it also makes me just, I don't know, lag behind everybody else, if that makes sense. Like, it's almost as if I'm several years behind everybody from a developmental standpoint. Like, I don't know. I'm in my early 20s, but I'm essentially mentally, I don't know, almost like a teenager. And I feel like that has a lot to do with my Asperger's. But the biggest giveaway and effect of it is that, well, not the biggest, but the biggest tell is that I have a really hard time making eye contact with people. And how this makes me neat is that it makes me act really off-putting to people, but instead of it being in terms of me being not trustworthy or me appearing like I'm not interested in the other person, which is due to social anxiety, it makes me off-putting because a lot of the actions and things that I'll say because of my Asperger's just make me appear really weird. And I don't know, people are just really put off by Asperger's behavior. But whereas they can kind of give a specific reason why they don't like somebody with social anxiety or which socially anxious behaviors they don't like, they usually can't really pinpoint exactly why they don't like people with Asperger's, but it really has to do with social skills. And the reason why they can't, explain why they don't like Asperger's or spurgy behavior is because most of these things are subconscious, like social skills, and they're intuitive. So these are things that most normal people do automatically, but that people with Asperger's they mess up or they act in ways that just make normal people go, wait, what is he doing? Like, why is he acting that way? Or he's just gives me a creepy, weird vibe. Yeah, I think creepy is also a good description of Asperger's related behavior. And or like inappropriate, or I guess funny if you're looking at them from afar. A third mental illness that I suffer from, which affects me greatly, is addiction. And addiction, I guess from a subjective standpoint, doesn't feel bad because I'm essentially indulging in things that I already enjoy. And I think it explains the whole comfy feeling that NEETs talk about, because it's referring to that dopamine rush that you get when you do things like play video games, watch movies, fap, read manga if you like that, and anime, whatever, doing whatever you like. But I guess addiction is when you get addicted to this nice, warm, fuzzy feeling that you get when you do things you enjoy, and you just end up doing it over, like the same activities over and over to chase that feeling. And because you want to get the same like high, I guess, because it essentially is a high, you keep doing the thing more and more, but it keeps giving diminishing returns. And that's essentially how it affects me, is that I get addicted to things until I get burnt out with them, and then I switch to another addiction. And it's just an endless cycle of chasing the dopamine high of addiction. And as a result, I just pull countless hours into wasting time and just doing things that really aren't productive and that don't benefit me in any way or further my life and essentially help me escape NEETdom. And yeah, I guess in a nutshell, it stops me from, the way addiction contributes to my NEETdom is that it stops me from engaging in any activities that would help me overcome all my other mental illnesses. Like, for example, ideally, I should be practicing my posture, my facial expressions, exercising, doing hobbies, developing skills, filling out job applications. But what ends up happening is that I basically spend hours upon hours watching YouTube, because that's my main addiction, or playing video games. And yeah, it's just a huge time sink, and that's just what addiction is. It's a time sink. It's just wasting time and making every day feel like the same, because you're just chasing a high that will gradually diminish. And yeah, it sucks. It feels good, but it sucks. The fourth mental illness that I'm going to talk about, and this is probably more specific to me now than most NEETs, because I feel like addiction, Asperger's, and social anxiety are probably the main reason why people become NEET. Well, apart from schizophrenia, but thankfully I don't have that. But cyclothymia is the next one I'm going to talk about, and I'd say I suffer from it at around a 2.5 out of 10. And what it is that it's basically it's a watered down version of bipolar disorder. And basically, whereas someone with bipolar disorder might have major depression and major depression and mania, I basically have minor depression and not mania, a manic episode. Someone with bipolar disorder will go through major depression and a manic episode, and they alternate between the two. And for me, how it affects me is that I essentially go through the same thing, but on a much smaller scale. So I'll have minor depression, which is just having a few depression symptoms and not having them to the extent that a person with bipolar disorder will have. And then I'll fluctuate in a very predictable pattern of maybe every 2 or 3 weeks, where I'll feel really excited and hyped up, and then all of a sudden I'll crash and I'll feel depressed and want to cry, and then I'll slowly build back up to where I reach this sweet spot, and then the cycle will repeat itself over and over again. And I wish I could stay at this sweet spot in the middle, where I feel like I function the best, because I feel like that sweet spot is basically what normal people feel like all the time. But when I'm outside that sweet spot, I either feel this feeling of mania, which is a combination of hyperactivity, like ADHD, where my attention span is very small, and I get excited and easily addicted to things, and easily addicted to things, and easily addicted to things, and almost narcissistic. And on the other hand, you have these depression periods where I just feel I don't know, extremely down, sad, not suicidal, thankfully, but just down, sad. And I just don't have the motivation to do anything. And the things that I usually enjoy don't give me any pleasure at all, which is actually what I feel I'm going through right now. And yeah, that's probably why you'll notice my energy and the way I'm talking fluctuate over time, and because of my cyclothymia. And how this keeps me neat is that it essentially makes it hard to make any real meaningful change in my life. And because every time I try and do something, um, it usually only turns out well when I'm in that sweet spot. And when I'm outside it, I either become way too easily distracted and engage in things that I'm addicted to, or I just lie in bed all day feeling depressed and not feeling like doing anything. So yeah, and it just, these fluctuations, although it's not to the point where I have like split personalities, it's almost as if I'm like different people in these different periods, in these different, I guess, moods, because that's what they are, they're moods. And yeah, it's just hard to stay consistent doing anything when you either feel too excited or too distracted, or you just don't feel like doing anything and nothing feels pleasurable at all. Um, I guess the final mental illness, which I'll talk about, is my narcissism. And I guess I would probably rate it a 2 or a 1.5 out of 10, but I do definitely notice a narcissistic streak within me. And I feel like this was mostly developed as a defense mechanism to counteract my low self-esteem. And how this affects me is that makes it, it makes me get really hurt and upset when people say something that doesn't align with my identity, and that just further, I don't know, just further makes it harder for me to interact with people. And it also makes it so that, well, I'm not really sure if I suffer from it, to be honest, because maybe it's just a byproduct of my mania, or my manic episodes, if you can call them that. And during these periods, I just feel like I'm invincible, I'm on top of the world, and that I'm capable of doing anything, when in reality, I don't know, maybe I'm just delusional. Maybe I'm destined to be a NEET, I'm destined to be a failure. And yeah, so I guess it's hard to deal with that. Some other things I suffer from, I guess, some other minor things are Tourette syndrome, where I have these vocal tics, and what else? Vocal tics, motor tics, and what that's like is that you have this weird itch that you want to scratch, and it's not really like an actual itch, but it's like this weird tension or feeling that will only go away if you do a weird movement, like grunt, or do something like lift your shoulder, like lift your neck like that. Like that was a motor tic which I just let pass through. But the reason I'm not really including as something severe is because I basically, over time and just through aging, have thankfully learned to control it, and therefore it doesn't affect me as bad as it used to when I was, let's say, 5. But the unfortunate side effect is that I do have to allocate some attention into suppressing my tics. And if I concentrate on something else, like playing video games, or I don't know, playing video games, watching a show that I really get engrossed in, my tics will end up surfacing again. And yeah, that's pretty much all I can think of for now in terms of mental illness. I'm probably forgetting 1 or 2 more minor things, but they're probably not important, and are probably, I guess, within the realm of being normal. So I won't talk about them for now, because this video is probably quite long at this moment, and yeah, it's probably a good time to end it. So anyways, if you've gotten this far, thanks for watching and showing interest in my channel. And if you like what you've heard, if you can relate, or if you I don't know, just found what I was talking about interesting in any way, make sure to hit the subscribe button to hear about stuff like this in the future, and hit the like button if you enjoyed what you watched. Anyways, yeah, thanks for watching.